Hello my lovely Flosstube friends, welcome back to the channel. A very warm welcomes to you all. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification button, and that way you won't miss any further uploads. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for your support on my channel. It's very much appreciated and I love the fact that you all come and hang out with me. So as you can see today, we are doing yet again another stitch with me. I must be doing well this month to be able to get another video out. I have plenty of time on my hands, that's for sure. So this was a new start for this month. More about that momentarily. It is one of the 𝕷𝖔𝖓𝖕𝖊𝖗, the new one, tap dancers. And because it was such a success at stitching and chatting with you all at the same time on the last video, I thought, why not? Let's just have some more fun with this one. It's much easier for me to do the multitasking. So it's, as I say, it's a new chart by 𝕷𝖔𝖓𝖕𝖊𝖗. It's right up my street. It's got shoes in it. It's got dancers in it. Yeah, it's got all the things in it. And given that I am now, where are we? What is today? Today is Friday the 13th of May. So I am 19 days post-op, total hip replacement on my left hip. Needless to say, I'm not doing any dancing myself. So to sit and do something that's about dancing, yeah, it puts me in a happy place. So the fabric that we're working on today is a hand dye fabric by Stephanie. It is a 25 count even weave in the colorway April Showers. To you it probably looks just very blue, but when I unravel it, there's blues, there's pinky purples. So yeah, it's all good stuff. So let me just make this picture a little smaller so that you can see more of what I'm actually doing. So we'll put that down there out the way. So that is the 𝕾𝖒𝖕𝖕𝖑𝖊, people. Nothing like a good 𝕾𝖒𝖕𝖕𝖑𝖊. And we are using, this is a Silks for You silk in the colorway PR109. As you can see, it goes from a purpley mauve color to a blue, a lighter blue, into a sort of silvery bluey grey color. Absolutely love this. This was a hank of silk that I broke down into sections to get the colorway the way that I wanted it. There is a video that I posted. I'll put a link here at the top for you so that you can see where I done that, and you can see the difference in the whole hank versus what we have here, which is like the broke down section that I'm working with on this project. I love working with the silk threads. They are like butter. Absolutely, just, yeah, slides through. So because of the variegation on the thread, I'm stitching this 2/2 full cross, but I'm doing each stitch individually. And the reason for that, for those of you that aren't and haven't had experience of working with the variegated threads, to get this true variegation where you can see it going, you can see the transitions in the colors that actually match the transitions of the colors in the skein. To get that, you need to stitch every single stitch individually. However, if you have a variegated thread that's a little bit too variegated for your liking, but you love the colors, you can tone that variegation down by stitching it. Well, there's two ways to do it. So the first way is you can stitch it so that you do all the bottom legs of the stitch, and then you come back and then you do all the top legs. And what that will do is that will put some of the blues over the purple, over the mauvey purple, which will tone everything down. So everything will become a little less obvious with the variegation and become a little bit more muted. Also, when I'm pulling from this is the way that I work with my skein. Once I've reduced down the hank into its sections, each one you can pull as a single thread. As you can see here, there's one little rogue thread there. What you can do if you want to mute it down, and you don't want to have to worry about either stitching a full cross one at a time, or go backwards and forwards with the bottom leg and the top leg. The other way that you can actually mute down this variegation is when you pull your strands of thread from here. At the moment orientation wise, I keep them the same. So if I pull from the top, I know that that's my mauve end, and I'll lay the mauve end at the top and the grey silver end at the bottom, and then I'll pull another strand and then put the two together in the same orientation. The other option that you've got is you can actually pull the skein, or pull the thread from the skein, and you rotate them. So if you pull the first one and you keep the mauve at the top and the grey blue at the bottom, if I then pull another strand, I will rotate it around so that the bluey grey is at the top with the other one where the mauve section is, and then I would just stitch normally with it, and then that will also mute down the colour. So for those of you that like variegation but don't like too much variegation, and you have a very variegated thread, that is another option for you. Me, on the other hand, I love my variegation, so therefore I will be stitching it so that when I pull each strand will be pulled from here and orientated in the same direction, and then I put the two strands together, and then that's how I stitch. So there we go, a little bit about what we're doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Let me just mark off. So I am actually using Pattern Keeper in the background. You can't see that. One of these days I will have to add it to the screen so that you can see what I'm marking and as I go. But for now, the technology is just running along in the background with me. So I'm just sitting here marking off what I've already done. There we go. So like I say, I'm 19 days post-op. I'm trying to behave myself and not overdo things or exercise. We've had a couple of little issues where I had to call up the physio team because I was becoming very, very sore. And they thought that maybe it was because I was trying to do a little too much. And definitely trying to do too much too soon, as far as not using the crutches so much, walking and basically using a stationary bike. So they've reined me back in, so I feel like I've been totally reprimanded. So I've been reined back in, and they basically said for at least the next week, go back to just doing the exercises that you were given when you left the hospital. So, yeah. I have been told, people. I have been told. I feel like a naughty schoolgirl who's been told off. Right, I'm just going to thread that at the back and cut that off. There we go.
The time is 2:03 p.m. Hope you're having a good day. Want to go for a walk?
You've just got to love a bit of Google, haven't you? No, I don't want to go for a walk. That's the last thing that I'm supposed to be doing. I set that so that when I'm working, I don't just sit here and forget to get up and stretch. But Google doesn't know that I'm not supposed to be doing that. Right, so let's just thread up another needle with some more thread. So what to tell you all? Like I say, I'm trying to behave myself. I'm trying to follow the guidelines of what I'm being told, what I can and can't do. Although I'm not a very patient person, so I'm becoming a little impatient with how slow the recovery is. But yeah, I am only just it'll be 3 weeks post-op on Monday. Okay, I've just squeezed the camera down just so that we're a bit more close and personal with the stitching. As soon as I can. So, where was we? Pin stitch. Okay, so this is how I'm going to start my thread. So I'm going down through the middle hole. And I bring it up to the hole directly next to it. Pull it through, leave a bit of a tail. I always hold that down with my finger. And then I'm going to put my needle back into that center hole and catch the thread. Keeping hold of the tail. and then I come back up on the other side. There we go. And then we take that back down again through the center hole, like so. Hold that little bit there, give it a little tug. There we go, that's all secure. That's how I start my threads. Okay, so let's get stitching. So it has been a very a very strange week. I'll be completely honest with you. I've had lots of ups and downs, but throughout these ups and downs, the one thing that I have had is plenty of time on my hands to do my stitching. But as well as that, I've gone on this crazy mission of wanting to start all the things. So that's exactly what I've been doing. So for those of you that follow me on Instagram, you're probably thinking, wow, we've seen more posts on Instagram from Teresa than we normally see in like 6 months. Because I've just gone on this crazy, I want to start all the things mission. And I do want to start all the things. I mean, even stuff that I shouldn't want to start, I still want to start. So I'm really looking forward to my monthly update this month, because I've got so many things, so many like new things. Because the one thing I didn't realize is that I've been working on, you know, a lot of the projects that I work on are my full coverages, and most of the projects that I've got are quite big. And being that, you know, as much as I would love to sit and say that I sit and stitch every day, the realities of that are I don't. And then I work full time, and I've recently got 2 puppies, which I've definitely got my hands full. So by the time I've done training a couple of nights a week with them, and then all of the trying to get them to settle down so that I can actually sit down and do stitching without having to worry about what they're going to get up to. As well as, life, you know, family stuff, you know, all the boring everyday stuff that I have to do, the chores. And so normally time is precious. And given that at this time of year specifically is when I would normally spend an element of my time in the garden, romping around out in the garden, all of that hasn't been able to happen. And because none of that has happened, and I've been told specifically don't do these things, you know, just rest, all of a sudden it's just, I've got all of this stitching time. But when I sort of sat and was thinking, right, okay, so I've got to sit down and I've got to make sure that I don't do too much of anything. So I need to make sure that I'm, you know, really occupied, which was sort of why I was planning to think, I'll get so much stitching done. But then I was sitting there thinking, I don't really want to stitch on all the same things that I've been stitching on, because it's that alternative reality. Alternative reality, although I absolutely love it, I'm only 22% in on alternative reality. Yet, when I've actually looked at when I started it, that means that I have waffled on about the same project to you lot on Flosstube for about 6 years, about the same project over and over again every month. I mean, are you not bored of it yet? Because I mean, it's like 6 years in the making and I'm only at 22%. I mean, I know what you're thinking, because I did have this moment of thought myself that, well, maybe whilst I was off, that would be the reason that I should actually spend more time working on my big projects to actually make a dent in them. But given that, one, I'm on medication, and the medication makes me a bit woozy at times, let's say. I don't really want to be stitching things that are too complicated. Not that I consider my full coverages too complicated, but sometimes it can get a bit hard to, especially when you're in like an area of confetti with all the counting and I could see me making some mistakes. But also it's just sort of, sometimes it's nice to work on things that are just a little simpler in general. But I don't know why, but I just had this moment where it was just like, do you know what? I feel like starting stuff that's new. Not just for Flosstube, but for myself. I want some new and fresh things. It's not that I don't like the ones that I've got, because I do. But I think when I've been working on them, you know, month after month after month, and it's the same projects over and over again, it's like, yeah, I could do with something that's... I mean, it will mean that some of my existing projects will slow down on progress. I admit that. And I can see that happening. However, it also makes it so that when I do sit and stitch on them, I don't feel like, oh, I'm gonna have to drag that one out and do a bit on it because I should. I won't have that feeling, because in my eyes, I'm like, well, I've got so many different projects that I can stitch on a bit of everything. And then some months, if I really don't feel like stitching on, say, I don't know, alternative reality, I can be like, well, okay, I won't stitch on alternative reality. I'll pick a different height that month. And then that way I'll get to stitch on other things. So I'm going to try and make it so that I'm rotating across the months. So at the moment, what I was trying to do is, because I mainly only do monthly updates, what I was trying to do was make it so that I could stitch a little bit on everything every month, and then update on what I've achieved in that month. But most months I was stitching on most of my projects. So I'm going to adapt it slightly. I'm going to need to, for sure. So hold on, let me just do my end stitch here. Let's just make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, I am. That's it. So I thought I'm just going to adapt it slightly and make it so that not all of my projects will come out every month, and I'll rotate across the months what projects I work on when. That's not to say that they're all going to come out sort of, you know, if something didn't come out the month before, then it will the following month, but it will just allow for me to decide what ones I'm going to make focus pieces and what ones I'm not. And I'll just stitch on them when I fancy stitching something different. I think it's just, I'm loving the idea of having other things to stitch on. I've definitely got a lot more smaller stuff on the go now. So I have it in my mind that I've got a rough idea of how I'm going to manage. You know, a lot of people have sort of said, you know, how are you going to manage all these new starts, Teresa? That's a lot of projects. But for me, a lot of my projects have been so ongoing for so long that it's like, well, I don't really think it makes much of a difference to me whether that's, you know, I don't think that anything's going to change anytime soon, let's say. Okay, so let me just start this thread. Hold on. We're going to start our thread. Start here. So the plan, I do have a sort of plan, she says. So the plan is that I will have multiple projects, but not everything will be stitched every month. Far from it. I'm rather hopeful that it will work so that I've got projects that I can pick and choose when I want to stitch on them. And if they don't get stitched 1 month, the chances are they'll get stitched the next month. But also I'm trying to balance out so that I've got different types of projects, so they're not all full coverage and they're not all sampler thread, like samplers. They're not all, because I've been really quite selective about what I normally stitch on, and now I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, well, I fancy stitching on a lot of different things and just having a lot of different things. I've got a lot more smalls that I've started. I say smalls, but they're smaller than a lot of my other projects are. There are some full coverage in there, but there's also some ladies and, you know, different things, different bits and pieces, just because I fancy a change. It's quite nice to have a bit of a change. Let me just scroll my chart up a little. There we go. So as I was saying, that I think the plan, as if there is a plan. In my head, there's a type of plan and a method to the madness. But I just like the idea of having some other stuff to work on. Right, I'm just going to need to move this camera down. So let me set that up for you. There we go. That's a little better. So I think the plan is going to be that projects will get rotated. I will rotate projects so that everything gets a touch every couple of months. I mean, at least, if nothing else, at least I'm going to have some other projects that I can talk about instead of the same ones that I've been talking about for like the last, I don't know, 6 years. Because yeah, it's pretty bad when you sort of like look at the dates of like when you started the projects, and I'm like, surely the people of Flosstube must be absolutely bored out their skull watching me talk about the same project for like 6 years straight, and I'm still only 22% in. I mean, that's just, yeah. At that point, that was sort of an eye opener for me when it became rather apparent that was the case. Because up until now, I hadn't actually thought about it that way. I hadn't sat there thinking, are they bored of this yet? But even then, so it's a bit like, so alternative reality is on the frame at the moment in the living room. And what I'm doing at the moment is trying to make it so that, you know, every now and then I'll just sit there and put 100 stitches in. But there's no rush. I've never rushed. I haven't rushed it in the past 6 years, so I don't see why I should start rushing it now. I tend to put, I mean, the alternative reality, the problem with that is one of the ones that I'm doing in full cross. 1/1. It takes forever and it's heavily confetti. 𝕯𝖆𝖕𝖗𝑚 are renowned for being rather confetti heavy. So it can be quite challenging in areas wherever you, like where I'm stitching, which then sort of puts me off from wanting to get it out, in all fairness. But I do need to sort of get back into like a swing, if you like, and get some stitching on with that one. But this is it, with all the new things that I'm starting. Even though I've started, so what have I started? So this month alone, which is my May madness, where I'm allowing myself to do all the starts. I've had, how many starts have we had? Let me have a look. New starts, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're on our fourth new start. There's a few more in the mix that I want to start in May. So yeah, even though there's 4 new starts, none of them are full coverage. The only one that's probably sizable is this one, currently. I say currently because at the moment, anything goes. So if all of a sudden I wake up tomorrow and I decide I fancy, pulling something else out, then I will. Just because I can. Because I've decided in my head that May is the month that I'm allowed to do whatever I want. However I want. And yeah, and just because I can, I will. And if, in my opinion, if I don't start the things, you can't finish something if you've never started it. So I'm like, well, if I don't start it, because I keep saying, oh, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, and I'm like, yeah, but you won't have it finished if you don't ever start it. So I'm like, well, as long as it's started, that's fine by me. So that's where my head's at the moment. So, like I say, I've got new starts that I've allocated that are definitely going to happen. And I've said to myself that May is the month that everything needs to be started. However, there will be one full coverage piece that will also need to be started because it's a stitch along. So I fell down another rabbit hole, which was totally enabled by others. Let me just tell you, this is not my doing. This is other people's fault. You know who you are, people. I'm not going to sit here and say names, but yeah. So 𝕾𝖒𝖕𝖕𝖊𝖗𝑗, 𝕯𝖆𝖓𝖈𝖊𝖗, Michaela, Kirsty. Yeah, they all know who they are. They're all responsible for enabling. So they decided, I think it was Darren and Ellie had decided that they were going to do this. They were going to do a stitch along for the Stanley Morrison pain-free craft charts of the dragons. And the dragons, they've got like drink dragons and food dragons. Of course, when they was mentioning about these dragons and they was going to do a stitch with me, I was like, oh, I don't know. I've got more than enough full coverages. Do I really need to sort of have any more than I've already got? And when we was on a discussion, they was like, yeah, but they're not anywhere near the size of a Heaven and Earth design, so they're not like huge. They're not dinky, admittedly, but they're not huge. So, Kuss, me being me, and I would love to sit and say that it was drug induced because I'm on medication, but I think we had the conversation before I was even on any medication. So I done nothing more than go onto the Pain Free Craft website and looked up the Stanley Morrison dragons and was just like, oh, they're just too cute. So if you haven't looked, Stanley Morrison, I'm going to type it here so that you can see it underneath. Pain Free Crafts. Look at the dragons. I mean, well, the decision making was so hard because there were so many dragons that I loved, all for different reasons. There was foodie dragons, and then there was drinky dragons, and I was like, oh, well, which one? What do I pick? What do I pick, people? With a little help from my friends, I picked one. Hold on, I just need to do another pin stitch. Where are we going to go with this one? Okay, let's go here. Hold on, people. I don't know how I can. I'm going to have to learn to be able to multitask, aren't I? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's do this again. Come here, little sucker. So, yeah. So, if you go onto the Pain Free Crafts website, you will see what I mean. There's all these cutesy little dragons. And some of the dragons are like food dragons, and then you've got like your drink dragons. So you've got tea, coffee dragon. You've got, I don't know, wine dragon, beer dragon, kraken dragon. But then it's got like your mojitos, your martinis, your champagne dragons, and then there was the food ones. So you got like the blackberry dragon, you've got the cranberry dragon, you've got the strawberry dragon. Yeah. So needless to say, I fell well and truly down that rabbit hole of feeling all left out. So I done nothing more than start looking at these dragons and made the official decision that I was going to join them in this mission. And then, you know, when you're sitting there thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why do I need another full coverage? As if I haven't got enough. But I couldn't help myself. Then it was down to which dragon. And literally I was procrastinating over the dragons because there was just so many beautiful dragons. And I was like, but I like that one. But I like that one. But I like that one. So yeah, eventually with a lot of help and some generosity of a lovely lady, I decided that I was going to pick my dragon. So I picked the dragon. I now have the chart of the dragon. And I've ordered all of the threads. The other beauty of the Pain Free Crafts one is that whereas say a Haid is like 100 plus colours, this is only 50 colours, the one that I've gone with. I'm not going to spoil the fun just yet. I will announce it on my my next monthly update about the dragon. Now, although I've sat there saying to myself that I'm only allowed to have all this May Madness new stars in May, and that as of the end of May, that's not allowed to happen. The Stanley Morrison sale, Dragons sale, actually doesn't start until the 1st of June. So although technically it doesn't land in May, it sort of does, because the decision was that I was joining the sale in May, but they're not starting it until the 1st of June. So the 1st of June, I will have another full coverage piece, although this will also be my first ever full coverage piece that isn't an heaven and earth design. So that's quite intriguing for me, just to try something a little different. So yeah, I don't even know how I've managed to fall down yet another rabbit hole. What can I say? Like rabbit hole lady, aren't I? Just end up falling down lots and lots of rabbit holes, especially at the moment, because I just want to do all the things. I want to stitch all the things. So yeah, it's been crazy, really. And I haven't realised how much free time. I mean, all right, admittedly, this isn't like normal where, you know, you've still got your chores to do and you've still got, you know, housework to do and you've still got this and that to do. So this is slightly different because I'm not supposed to be doing all the things. But I just can't believe how much actual time I've been getting to sit and just do stitching. And how much more stitching I'm getting done because I'm not allowed to go and do all the things. I'm getting so much more stitching done. And then because in the afternoons so we have at the moment, because I'm not allowed to do the walking, and I wouldn't even try and attempt to walk with the girls. They're not being that they're puppies, they're still pulling, and although they're small, they still pull a lot. So I would never dream or even consider trying to take them for a walk. But hubby's on shift work, which makes it all a bit tricky. So we've got like a dog walking service that are coming in and walking the dogs every day, just in case Darren's not around to take them. So the girls go for a walk at 3:00 today and all of this week. And then when the girls have been for their walk, and then they have their little treat when they come home, as soon as they've had their little treat, we go up and have a nap. So I will stitch downstairs on one project, depending on whether I'm in here or whether I'm in the living room, because I've got one set up in the living room, because obviously I can't be moving everything around all the time. So I've got one project that's set up in the living room. I've got another project that is set up in here on this desk stand, and then I've got another project that's set up on just a Q-snap and my Patoki stand upstairs, so that way, regardless of where I am, I can just sit and do a bit of stitching if I fancy it, which is exactly what's happening. So although I've been working on something downstairs, and then I'm thinking, okay, girls need to go for a little nap now, so I've took them upstairs so that they can come and lie on the bed with mummy and have a cuddle. But then instead of me going straight off to sleep, I've sat there and done a spot stitching on another project upstairs. So at the moment, there's like 3 projects a day that are just getting, doesn't matter even if they're only getting 10 or 15 stitches in. It's like I feel like I'm making so much more progress because I'm stitching on lots of different things at the moment, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's quite nice to have sort of all these different things that I'm stitching on, but it's not just one thing. So it's not like I've just spent the entire day working on one project. I'm just sort of having fun and having, you know, a few stitches on this one, and then switch the project, and then a few stitches on this one. So yeah, so whereas before I'd be like, oh, come on, I've been working on this all day and is that as far as I've got? I'm not getting that feeling because I'm sort of stitching all the things, literally. So I think that's why I'm finding the whole stitch all the things and have new starts is no biggie for me at the moment, because I'm like, yeah, you can do that because you just can't you? Because you're stitching all the things. Whereas before I'd be like, you can't justify starting something else when you're barely having the time to stitch on the things that you've got. So that's sort of where I've been at. It's amazing how I managed to justify it all to myself of all the stitching that I want to do. But I do have a clear vision in my mind of what I want to do. I really do. But I'm I'm having so much fun with it, you know, whereas normally I'd be like, no, you know, I'd love to sit and do a spot stitching, but I've got housework to do, and I've got this to do, and I've got that to do. And then I think, oh, I won't do any stitching today because I've got so much to do. But then I'm kicking myself because I'm like, I've done all my housework and I've done all the things, but I haven't actually had any time for me. Whereas at the moment, I just feel like I'm getting lots and lots of me time. Lots and lots of me time. So yeah, so I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying the processes of being able to stitch on multiple projects throughout a day, which is such a rarity, because normally I'm lucky if I can find time to stitch on one project. But the fact that I've got a lot of projects and I'm sort of picking and mixing them throughout the course of a day, I'm absolutely loving it. But without having to, I don't think that I would do that if, you know, if I had to keep changing things, you know, taking it off of a frame and then put it onto another frame. I don't think I'd do it then. But because I've got them all pre-set up, I've got, you know, one in each room. I'm loving that. Because they're already there. They're already set up. It's just a case of walking into the room, and even when I've been tired, because obviously being that I've been on drugs, I have needed to sleep more than normal, because I'm getting tired very, very quickly and very, very easily. So what I tend to do is go upstairs with the girls, have a little nap. But before I have a nap, I'll let them chill out and sort of get themselves all comfortable. and I'll normally sit and, you know, do about 20 or 30 stitches on something, because normally a small upstairs, a smaller project like on a Q-snap. So I'll sit and do sort of 20 or 30 stitches on a project while the girls are sleeping, and then I'll put the stitching down and then have like a little hour nap with the girls. But that way it's like whatever the project is upstairs, it's getting stitched on. And then because I'm finding that I get too uncomfortable being on the sofa downstairs, it's like I'll sit downstairs for a few hours and then I'll get up and, you know, stretch my legs and have a sort of walk. But then I'll get uncomfortable and then I'll be like, now I need to go back and lie on the bed. And sometimes I'm not tired. You know, I don't feel the need for a nap, but I do need to go and rest and lay rather than sit. So when I get to that position, I'll go back upstairs and lay with the girls. The girls automatically will lay down and crash out. And I'll sit there and watch TV upstairs and just do some more stitching, which is fabulous. Absolutely love it. I'm loving how it goes. So with all that being happening, I think that's sort of, it's helping the stitchy bug, if you like, of, you know, wanting to stitch all the things, because I'm getting so much time doing my stitching. Bear with people, I need to do some counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just making sure that we're not making a boo-boo. So yeah, I think because I'm thoroughly enjoying doing all the stitching, it's just, yeah, I'm having an absolute ball at the moment. And with so much Flosstube to watch, because I have watched a lot of Flosstube again, which again is a rarity. Like normally I don't really have that much time to watch TV because I'm only sort of getting an hour of stitching here and there, whereas now it's like hours of stitching, which is fine all the time I'm off work. I mean, obviously everything's going to change when I go back to work, you know. I'm not deluded that won't happen, but at least now, because that was the other thing, is when I do go back to work, I need to have things that I can stitch on the train, because the train journey will return. So because there's going to be a train journey again, it's like, well, it's important to make sure that, you know, I've got stuff that I can be stitching on the train. Because up until now, I mean, well, for some time now, so I'm just ending my thread on the back. Because I've been working from home for so long, I've just been having, you know, projects that are at home with me. So it didn't matter whether they were big or small. Whereas now, going back into London will mean that I will require those smaller projects again, so that I've got like what I consider to be train projects. Do you remember the days? Do you remember when I told you about me beading on the train and the beads were just sort of flinging off and smacking that businessman who did not look at all amused? Those days are returning, you know, where I can tell you these funny stories of things that happened to me on the train because I look like the crazy cross stitch lady. So yeah, so the fact that I've got all the starts going, at least now there are a lot more projects that would be easier for me to stitch whilst I'm on a train, because there's no way I would consider taking a full coverage, for instance, and stitching that on a train. I would probably stitch this on a train. This one would be easier, but again, it's quite big. So the fabric and the Q-snap would need to be, well, the fabric around the Q-snap would be huge if it was a small Q-snap. But because there's lots of other projects that I've got now and that I'm intending to start throughout the course of this month that are a bit smaller, I should have, lots of bits and pieces that I can stitch and finish on a train on my way in and out of London, which then justifies that because I've sort of said that I can't have any more new starts as of the end of May. I can't have any more new starts until I have a finish. But if I'm stitching on the train in and out of London on smalls, then the idea is that I should have more finishes. There is a method to the madness, people, she says. Or at least that's what I tell myself. Well, I think, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that will do for the stitching. What's the time? Yeah, it's coming up quarter to 3. The girls are fast asleep, love, on the bed behind me. And the dog walking lady's going to be here at 3 o'clock to take them out. So they're going to be like, what, you want us to wake up now and go out? So I might need to liven them up a little bit in preparation, because otherwise they're just going to be like, we don't want to go. Although I can't see that happening. Bonnie maybe. Bonnie will be like, take it or leave it. But Honey's like my action girl. She wants to go do all the things. All the things. So hold on, let me just finish this thread on the back. So one thing that I was contemplating is because there has been so much May stuff happening, and with the May madness that I've got going on, and the fact that, when is it? So the end of the month, I've got a retreat as well. I'm going to a crew retreat. So I've got a 4-day retreat towards the end of the month. But I was thinking that my monthly update, or my next monthly update, instead of doing my monthly update as a recording, is whether I should consider doing a monthly update live, so that I can show you all the new things that we've started this month, and that all the stitching that I've got done, but also discuss it as a discussion, rather than just me going, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll have to see sort of, one, how I feel, and 2, if it's doable, because the retreat is the 26th, I think. So that's like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the retreat. So if I did do it, it would probably need to be a weekday, unless I'm prepared to do it the weekend before. No, I think I can't do it like that, because I normally do my updates at the end of each month. So given that at the end of May, well, maybe. See, now I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to plan it in my head. Maybe I should do it the first weekend in June, and do my monthly update the first weekend in June, because that way I can show you all the things in May that I got up to, and the Stanley Morrison new start sale, and talk about the retreat, and at least that way, I can talk to people, I can interact, rather than just me sort of saying, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. I don't know. Maybe I should do a poll. I should do a poll, shouldn't I, on the community, and say, do you want a monthly update recorded, or do you want a monthly update live? And we'll do it like the first weekend in June, or something like that. I think that's the way to go. I might post it out there and see what they say. Fingers crossed, by the time I get to there, and I get to sort of around June, I'll be a little bit more agile, let's say, with the hip. So, but as you can see, I think we made good progress, people, didn't we? Because I only had this bit stitched. So in that time, we've stitched all this bit down here and all this bit over here. I don't think we did bad at all. So yeah, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for letting me sit here and waffle. And no doubt this is total waffle. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm on drugs. Sorry, medication. I'm on medication, so yeah, sometimes the medication goes to my head, and yeah, I'm obviously away with the fairies right now. But fairies or no fairies, I'm actually getting my stitching done. So, you know, apologies if none of what I've just said makes any sense to you whatsoever, or it was rambly, or it veered off in different directions. I can't help my train of thought, so not at the moment. But thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I wish you all well. Fingers crossed you've all got wonderful weather, and no doubt I will see you very soon with another video, because at the moment it appears that I'm all about the stitching and all about the videos. So until next time, people, thank you again, and bye bye for now.